The preterm twins lay in separate incubators, Charlotte growing stronger while Olivia's tiny body failed her. After doctors delivered the devastating news that all medical options were exhausted, a compassionate nurse suggested placing the healthier baby next to her dying sister for one final moment together. The moment their skin touched, every medical monitor in the room suddenly changed. Hope can be fragile, especially after years of disappointment. For Emma and James Wilson, hope had all but faded after 7 grueling years of fertility treatments. They'd weathered the emotional storm of 3 devastating miscarriages, each one chipping away at their dream of becoming parents. Their savings had dwindled with each round of IVF, and the emotional toll had become almost unbearable. This was it, their final attempt. They'd agreed that regardless of the outcome, this would be the end of their fertility journey. When they sat nervously in the doctor's office awaiting the results of their latest treatment, they'd already begun processing the likelihood of failure. The ultrasound technician had been quiet at first, moving the wand methodically across Emma's abdomen. Then came a pause. The technician's eyes widened slightly before she turned the screen toward them. Not one, but 2 tiny flickering heartbeats appeared on the monitor. Twins. After all the heartbreak, they were going to have 2 babies. The pregnancy had progressed normally through the first 2 trimesters. Emma diligently followed every recommendation from her high-risk pregnancy specialist. They painted the nursery in soft yellows and greens, purchased 2 of everything, and finally allowed themselves to believe this miracle was really happening. Then came the complications. At week 30, Emma woke in the middle of the night with contractions. Too early, much too early. James rushed her to the hospital where doctors tried to stop the labor. But the twins were determined to make their entrance into the world. Charlotte arrived first, weighing just over 4 pounds. Despite her small size, she came out crying, a strong, defiant wail that made the medical team smile beneath their masks. Olivia followed minutes later, smaller still at barely 3 pounds. Her cry was more of a whimper, fragile and uncertain. The twins were immediately transferred to the neonatal intensive care unit. In the NICU, the differences between the sisters became increasingly apparent. Charlotte, though premature, showed remarkable resilience. Each day brought small improvements. Better oxygen levels, successful feedings, steady weight gain. She was a fighter, the nurses said. Olivia struggled from her very first breath. Her tiny body seemed to work overtime just to perform the basic functions of life. Where Charlotte would grasp a finger with surprising strength, Olivia's movements were weak and sporadic. The medical team maintained positive expressions around the parents, but their hushed conversations and worried glances told a different story. The first week passed with a cautious optimism that began to fade during the second. As Charlotte continued to improve, Olivia's condition deteriorated. Tests revealed she had developed a rare heart condition that wasn't responding to treatment. The doctors tried different medications, adjusted ventilator settings, and consulted with specialists across the country. Nothing seemed to help. By the 3rd week, the contrast between the twins was heartbreaking. Charlotte was breathing mostly on her own, taking small amounts of milk from a bottle, and had even opened her eyes to gaze up at her parents. Meanwhile, Olivia remained attached to a maze of tubes and wires, her vital signs continuing to weaken despite the medical team's best efforts. On day 23, the neonatologist asked Emma and James to join him in a private room adjacent to the NICU. The moment they saw his face, they knew. Olivia's organs were beginning to fail. He explained gently that they had exhausted all medical interventions. There was nothing more they could do to save their daughter. Emma collapsed into James's arms, her body shaking with silent sobs. James tried to remain strong, asking questions about how long they had left, what would happen next, and whether Olivia was in pain. Beneath his calm exterior, he was shattered, struggling to comprehend how they could be losing one daughter while the other thrived just a few feet away. The doctor advised them to prepare to say goodbye to Olivia. He suggested they might want to hold her for the last time. Back in the NICU, they sat in the rocking chairs between the 2 incubators, reaching in to touch both girls, trying to bridge the gap between their different fates. Nurse Sarah Henderson had been caring for the twins since they arrived in the NICU. She was experienced, having worked with premature babies for over 15 years, but there was something about these twins that touched her deeply. That evening, as Emma and James sat vigil by Olivia's incubator, Sarah approached them. Her face showed the compassion that had sustained many families through their darkest hours in the NICU. She asked if they had considered letting Charlotte spend a little time with her sister. She explained that sometimes it was nice for twins to be together, especially now, to be together for a while. Emma and James looked at each other, a silent communication passing between them. Now this might be their only chance to see them together outside the womb. With the parents' agreement, Sarah carefully lifted Charlotte from her incubator. The healthier twins squirmed slightly but remained calm as the nurse placed her beside Olivia on the special warming bed. Emma held her breath as she watched her daughters lying side by side for the first time since birth. James took photos, his hands trembling as he tried to capture this moment that was both beautiful and devastating. The medical staff kept a respectful distance, allowing the family this private time together. What happened next defied medical explanation. As the twins lay together, Charlotte, as if sensing her sister's distress, stretched her tiny hand across the small space between them. Her little fingers came to rest gently on Olivia's arm. Within minutes of this innocent touch, the monitors tracking Olivia's vital signs began to show subtle changes. Her heart rate, which had been dangerously irregular, seemed to shift its rhythm. The parents didn't notice at first, too absorbed in watching their daughters together, but the attending nurse certainly did. Sarah called for the doctor, pointing to the monitors with a mixture of confusion and cautious hope. The medical staff watched in astonishment as Olivia's heartbeat gradually synchronized with her sister's stronger, steadier pulse. Her oxygen saturation levels, which had been consistently low despite maximum support, began to climb. Her breathing, previously labored and irregular, became more rhythmic. By morning, Olivia had stabilized enough that the doctor postponed withdrawing life support. Her kidneys, which had been showing signs of failure, began to function better. Her blood pressure normalized. Most remarkably, she began to respond to stimuli, squeezing fingers, reacting to voices. The hospital made an unprecedented exception to allow the twins to remain together in a specially modified incubator. 1 month after they had been prepared to say goodbye to Olivia, Emma and James stood at their daughter's shared space, tears streaming down their faces as they watched both girls breathing on their own. Charlotte continued to thrive, and although Olivia still had some challenges ahead, her improvement had been remarkable. The doctors were now cautiously optimistic about her long-term prognosis. When asked later how she knew to try placing the twins together, Nurse Sarah simply explained that some bonds are stronger than medicine. Sometimes she believed medical professionals needed to get out of the way and let love do the healing. The girls were discharged 2 weeks later, healthy and thriving. As Emma and James carried their daughters out of the hospital, they marveled at the journey that had brought them here. From years of heartbreak to the moment they almost lost Olivia, to this miracle they couldn't explain, but would forever be grateful for. The bond the twins formed in the womb and strengthened in those critical days in the NICU remained unbreakable, a testament to the connection they shared before they even took their first breaths in the world. Have you ever witnessed an inexplicable connection between twins or siblings? Do you believe in the healing power of human touch?